Okay, I've created a new event in Final Cut Pro and will be demonstrating how I edit my vintage films that I scan with RetroScan in Final Cut Pro. So I've scanned this 8mm film with the RetroScan Universal Scanner. Now we just need to locate the file so we can import it into Final Cut Pro. That's the file that was scanned with the scanner that I will be importing into Final Cut Pro. I'm waiting for it to create the proxy media so it's a little quicker to work with in Final Cut Pro. I'll take this time to say that I'm certainly not an expert at doing this, but hopefully what I'm showing you will help you or others who are struggling with this as I do. Now the only file I have here is the file that was scanned with the RetroScan Universal, and I'm going to drag this down to the timeline. Now it's going to ask what format it's in. We know it's in 1440p, so we'll select that, and it's 30 frames per second, so 30p. Now we're going to quickly scan through the film to see if there's anything that can be cut out. As this little bit of leader here will cut that out. Right away we can see that this film is very washed out. This film is from 1963. We're going to cut out from right about here to the beginning. We're going to use the blade tool to cut the film, using B to bring it up. We'll cut it, and then we'll hit A to go back to the select tool, zooming in with the Command plus keys. Now let's go ahead and play through this, and obviously there's no audio on this old 8mm film. That's a helicopter flying by, and you can obviously see we have a lot of dust and particles in this old film. You can tell this film is very overexposed. It was either overexposed or from age. We'll try to do what we can to correct this in processing, but sometimes when it's this overexposed, it's just impossible to get that data back. I don't know if this was filmed this way or if the film deteriorated. But as you can see here, this looks a little better, which makes me believe it was probably the way it was shot as opposed to the film deteriorating. Otherwise, it would be a little more uniform, I believe. Okay, there's some shots of people parachuting. That's pretty cool. Again, very washed out here. You can see some smudges which appear to be fingerprints on the lens here. We're going to speed this up a little bit here as we watch it. This is from my uncle's 8mm film vault, I believe. Now we're getting into some shots at home, and you can see how much better the exposure and color quality is here. This tells me that all that overexposed film was probably because the camera wasn't set right or just couldn't handle the bright scenes, and as opposed to the film being aged and deteriorated. Now we'll speed it up again a little bit. Okay, so that's the end. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to try and see if we can't get a little more contrast in here. What we'll do is we're We're going to split the film right here. Using the arrow key, I can go frame by frame. We're going to cut it right there. Now we've created two sections of the film, and you won't know it's been cut when it's played back. Now we can work on this section of the film separately. We'll find a spot where we want to base the adjustments on. We'll drop on Color Finale Pro onto the film. We're going to open the controls for this, put in the color wheels. And again, I'm no expert at this. We're going to adjust the shadows here. And then we'll adjust the highlights. You try to work with the lows and the highs first. When you change one, it will affect the other, so you kind of go back and forth. Then you can try adjusting the midtones. Now we'll try and adjust the saturation a little bit. If we go too far, you see the tint we get. Now let's experiment a little bit. Try to move it away from the blue. Now we're getting a yellowish tint. Bring the saturation down a little bit. Now we're going to reset and start again. Shadows, highlights, and then the midtones. Stay about there. Let's bring up the saturation. Try to bring some of the color back in. Let's play a little bit here and see how it looks. Maybe a little better, but not much. Once it's oversaturated like that, it's actually overexposed. It's pretty hard to get anything back. It's a hair better, but I didn't expect to get it very close to where it should be. I'm sure somebody who really knows what they're doing could do a better job than me. That looks good. That's the part that looked better before. Yeah, it's just too overexposed to try and get too much back. Try to improve it a little bit. I think that's probably about as good as we're going to get it. So let's close that. This section here, I don't know if it really needs a lot. We'll drop Color Finale Pro on it. See if we can improve it just a little bit. Bring up the color wheels. Adjust the shadows, highlights, back to the shadows, highlights, and then the midtones. Saturate it just a little bit more. I think we've improved it a little. It wasn't too bad to begin with. Whoops, let's see. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, we've clipped out the unnecessary things like the leader at the beginning. We've done some processing
and
to
I'll
try and
paste
improve
that
the
in
look.
at the end. What I usually do is freeze frame something.
And then we'll usually put my ending in here, and then I usually freeze frame a frame at the end. And there's this jet. Don't remember what jet that is. That looks pretty good. I think we'll use that. We'll use that as a freeze frame at the end. In order to create a high quality freeze frame, we need to take it off the proxy viewing. We want it to use the high quality. Optimize original, we'll set it to, and then we'll save current frame. And where we're going to place it all in the same folder with the original scan film and any other files associated with this project. Save it. It's been saved. Now we just need to import it into our event here. There it is right there. We're going to drag it down, put it in at the end of the film, and move the text above. Stretch this out to increase the time. I think we're going to scale it to try and get rid of those white borders. I like to change the color on the text so it shows up a little better. I think we'll change it to a yellow. Now we'll take a look at it. I think we'll put a transition in there. I didn't like the way it abruptly switched to the still frame. Now you can see it fade in. That looks good. I'm happy with that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put some music to this. Make it a little less boring for people, and if they don't like the music, they can just turn the volume down. I use a program called Smart Sound. I purchased this about 9 years ago, and I bought several albums that gives me the royalty rights to use these as I see fit, basically. I forgot to check how long I want the music to go for. Select a song and then put in the time you want, how long you want the music to play. That's minutes, seconds, and then frames is the last digits there. This is pretty great software. It will actually create an ending and beginning for the music no matter how long you make it. On something kind of patriotic. These are all the songs that I've purchased. This is the hard part, trying to find an appropriate song. No. So you just keep going through till you find a song that strikes your fancy. Keep trying. I usually find something that suddenly says, oh, that should work. You can also, what's cool here is different variations of the music. That's pretty cool. And if you see that single bar there, that means it's a single layer album. And then when the triple bars is, it's multi-layer, which also allows us to pick the mood. Not a lot of drums and bass in that one. Now you see we just got drums and bass. It might be all right if you want a kind of bluesy feel. Try the trio. Kind of like this. Try different variation. I like that. That's good. Let's do it. Now we just go to export. It will export the amount of time I put in. Export it. It will actually build the song. Tell it where to place it. Put it where the video is. Keep all our files together. Now we import it into Final Cut. There's the musical file we just created. We're going to do a Shift Z to see the whole project. And we drag it down. Start at the beginning. And you can see it ends right where I wanted it to. Now let's play it. I like it. Now let's see how the ending goes. Now listen for the ending. That's great. Doesn't just fade off or cut out, it actually puts an ending to the song in. That's done. Everything looks good. Now one more thing I gotta do is try and clean up some of the scratches and stuff. I use a plugin called Neato. Probably one of the best that I've found. Again, you just drag this onto the film. We'll put the playhead somewhere into here where we want to use it to adjust. Someplace where there's like a lot of sky. And we'll bring up the controls. Oops, wrong one. Noise reducer. What I normally do is do an auto profile. Checking for noise level. Now we'll fine tune it. That looks good. Now we'll do some noise filter settings. We'll go for normal quality. We'll increase the frames, how many frames it looks forward and backward. Advanced settings. This is like a tuning assist. We can adjust it here. And we're going to finish it. We're going to turn on dust and scratch removal. We're going to put aggressive on this. Yes, adapt to changing noise. Now we can view the original. Turn it on and off. And you can see it took out a lot of those speckles. If you try to do too much, it smooths it out too much. Everything gets a little blurry. Noise level, we may increase that just a little bit. And that's too much. 30%. Sharpening. We'll turn that on. This general kind of tells you everything you're doing. Again, we can look at the original and the process film. Yeah, there's not much we're going to be able to do about those fingerprints or whatever that is. We're going to try these settings. This is where the rendering takes a long time. We'll click back to proxy mode. Now, because this was shot with the same camera, I'm going to copy these settings to the other piece of film. So we'll do a Command C, which copies it. And then we'll do a Shift Command V. We don't want to do the Color Finale Pro because we've already done it. So we can select what we're pasting and click OK. Look at it a little bit. I think it could a little bit of sharpening yet. So we'll go into blur, take the sharpening plug-in, drop it on the piece of film. Now we can change the sharpening amount. Let's see how that looks. That looks a little better, I think. Might be a little too much. Usually around 13 is what I usually do. Now we got to find something here. We're going to try this sharpening on this other section of film. We'll copy that. Select the film we want to paste it to. Shift Command V. Again, you can see we don't need Color Finale Pro or the Nito. We just want the sharpening. And you can see how that did sharpen it up a little bit. I think that's going to be good. So now what I do is wait for the rendering process to get done. You can see my background task is rendering. So we're going to let that run and I'll be back shortly. All right, background tasks are finished. Now we're going to make sure this is set to the optimized original files. We're going to select export file. Set it for better quality encoding. 90 by 80. That's good. Next. And this is where we want to put it. So we'll go ahead and export it, which can take a few minutes. We'll come back when it's done. All right. Share has been successful. Here it is popped up in the QuickTime player. And we're going to take a quick look at it. Sure wish it hadn't been so overexposed. Look at a few various points here. There's our final frame. Perfect. Now what I do, I go into the file manager. There's the file that we just created. See how big it is? 390 megabytes. That's not bad. If it's really large, I'll use Handbrake to size it down. But this size is not that big, so we'll go into my YouTube channel. We'll take that file and drag it over into the upload section. And that's about it, folks. From there, we just add any descriptions and tags we need, and we're done. So I hope you enjoyed this video and hope it helps some of you for doing this. Thank you.